NAACP, AXO, Chemistry, and Biochemistry category. Hi, my name is Chelsea Thomas, and I am a graduate from The Ohio State University with a degree in chemical engineering, and I now work at the Metropolitan Sewer District of Greater Cincinnati. Today, we're going to talk about how to achieve 100 points in your category. We will also discuss how to choose a topic that's relevant to today's world. We will go over how to demonstrate excellence and go beyond the minimum standards. And finally, we will go over how to fine-tune your presentation to show confidence and create interest and passion in your subject matter. Chemistry and biochemistry, the science that deals with the composition, structure, and properties of chemical processes and phenomenon of substances and transformations that they undergo. Projects in this category could involve physical chemistry, organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry, materials, plastics, fuels, pesticides, metallurgy, soil chemistry, and etc. This category also includes the chemistry of life processes such as molecular biology, molecular genetics, enzymes, photosynthesis, blood chemistry, protein chemistry, food chemistry, hormones, etc. These are the requirements. Number 1, only one project can be entered per competition. Number 2, submit 6 copies of a double-spaced scientific paper to accompany the project to be submitted. The content of the paper, which should not exceed 5 pages, should include a short introduction describing the background and purpose of the work, an experimental section including both methods and results, a concluding section discussing the results and their implications. Tables, graphs, charts, maps, photographs, raw statistical data, etc. should also be included whenever possible. They must also include references used and acknowledge any individuals who served as direct academic resources. The student's name, page number, and unit name and number must be on the top of each page. Supporting documents must be submitted with the scientific paper. Number 3, the contestant is to make an oral presentation, minimum 5 minutes. This time limit does not include the time required for judges' questions and contestants to response. Number 4, contestants are responsible for providing their own equipment. Number 5, contestants must provide a display board for each qualifying entry. No display boards are permitted to appear in more than one competition. Additionally, the content of each display board must be relevant to the competition. Items used for demonstrations can be transferred if needed. Number 6, the NAACP AXO program will provide electrical power and display tables upon request. Number 7, contestants must submit a STEM verification form from a qualified scientist or science teacher with an earned professional degree or license. This person can also serve as a coach, working closely with the student during the course of the project to ensure the accuracy of the student's research and qualifications for entry. A STEM verification form must be submitted for each qualifying STEM competition entry. STEM projects will be judged by the following criteria. Quality of research, scientific approach/method, 20 points. So the scientific method contains about 6 parts. The first step is to observe the world around you. Find something that interests you and follow that for your project. The second step is to come up with a question. After you looked around you, picked a topic that interests you, you want to find a question about that topic. So for example, I have a lot of plants in my house. So my question could be, how much water does my plant need every week to survive? The third step is to come up with a hypothesis. A hypothesis is just a possible explanation or answer to the question that you just asked. So for my example, I could say my hypothesis is that my plant needs 1 cup of water each week to survive. The next step is to come up with an experiment and then conduct that experiment. So for example, I could, for my hypothesis, take a bunch of different plants, water them at different amounts, and watch them over the weeks to see how well they grow. The next step after this, and it's kind of done in parallel, is to collect and analyze your data. So for instance, I would observe my plants over several weeks, watering them as I have outlined in my experiment, and then I will look to see which plant has grown the most, or how much each plant has grown, and find out which amount of water has given me the best results for my plants. The final step is to come up with a conclusion based off of the results or the data you collected in the earlier step. So for instance, I could see that, watering my plant actually 2 cups a week would give me a better result. So in my instance, my hypothesis would have been disproven, and I would have come up with a new answer, is that my plant actually needs 2 cups of water to survive. Validity of information, 10 points. You want to make sure that the information you're providing is correct. So make sure you find sources that are really good, and this is where your mentor can come in to help guide you to the right academic resources. Validity of conclusion, that's another 10 points. So again, you want to make sure that the conclusions you're making based off of your experiment and the data is correct, right? And that's again another place where having a good mentor can help you analyze your data and come up with the right conclusion. Depth of understanding oral presentation, knowledge gained, and creativity, 20 points. You want to make sure when you're giving your oral presentation that you're being clear and that the people who are listening to your presentation are able to gain some information from it. Make sure you are laying out the steps of your presentation or the steps of your experiment in a concise manner, but in a way that the listeners fully understand what you did and how you came to your conclusions. Thoroughness and individual work, 20 points. Again, make sure you are doing your best to do your work in a thorough manner. When you're conducting your experiment, make sure you are writing down every step you took, and make sure you are making plenty of observations along the way. Written report, 10 points. Follow the instructions that we went over earlier in this tutorial, and make sure you are doing your report in a way that matches with the guidelines. Written report, again, should be very thorough. It should contain all the information that will guide the reader through how you came up with your question, how you did your experiment, and how you came up with the conclusions that you have. Visual presentation, 10 points. Again, similar to everything else, make sure your presentation is clear and concise. Be sure to include lots of graphs and pictures that will help your viewer understand your project and understand what you did. If you can, I suggest putting pictures of the experiment you conducted into your visual presentation as well. Tips for a successful project. Number 1, make sure you choose a category or competition category that aligns with your skills and aspirations, and also choose something that you're definitely interested in. Number 2, make sure you read the guidelines. With the science category, you want to make sure you're following all the tips for how to write the scientific paper, and also all the information on how to create your presentation board. Number 3, start early. With a science project, you need to have time to conduct your experiment to the full extent, right? So you want to make sure you give yourself enough time to do that in a way that will give you some good results at the end. Number 4, make sure you work with a mentor. Your mentor will help guide you to academic resources, can help you come up with a way to test your hypothesis, and can also help you analyze and come up with conclusions that actually make sense scientifically. Number 5, make sure you thoroughly research your category. That's the biggest piece in a scientific paper, is make sure you do the research. You'll come up with all kinds of different questions during research too, so that can be helpful in the beginning as well. Number 6, make sure you practice your oral presentation. It's very important so that you're able to give a clear and concise presentation that will allow the listener to understand how you came up with your project, how you conducted your experiment, and how you came up with your conclusion. Number 7, see it through to the end. With scientific projects, you often have to do iterations, which means you have to do an experiment multiple times or go through the scientific method multiple times, and that's okay. Also, sometimes your hypothesis will not match up with your conclusions. That's also okay. That's not a reason to give up. That's a reason to keep going. And also, you have learned something new. That's how you achieve 100 points.